Mr. Keon, maybe through you, Chair, I'll start with you. You talked a bit about bulk purchasing, and when we look at the potential medications that are covered here on this list, can you explain to Canadians, I mean, is it likely this is going to result in significant savings and lowering of prices that currently exist?
We do not think it will. We do not think it should. We have negotiated a very broad agreement with the Pan Canadian Pharmaceutical Alliance that covers public drug plans. It's the same price that private insurers pay, and it is a negotiated price with the provinces, the experts from the provinces, that is intended to provide good savings, good prices to Canadians, and a sustainable revenue base for our industry. So,
thank you very much for that, Mr. Keon. And to you, Mr. Frank, you know, there's this concept of universal single payer plan here in this Pharmacare pamphlet. Could you tell us, I mean, the minister and the officials who were here previously couldn't tell us what that meant. They said, well, it's a term that's been used a lot, and you know, everybody knows what it means. You know, you've been at this a while, and obviously I would suggest that maybe you could shed some light on this for the benefit of all Canadians of what that means.
If there's one point to underline today is that this bill is ambiguous, and we actually don't know what it means because it is not a defined term. But you know, the building of this bill, when you read it in its entirety, references to the Canada Health Act, references in the preamble to previous studies that have been done, single payer mentioned multiple times, universal. Those as a package have been well understood in the courts and over time in the provinces to mean, you know, a single payer, not federal, provincial, private, but a single payer. Universal means the same for everybody. And our concern is that that could be interpreted to also mean that private industry is no longer able to provide coverage. So, you know, when you read this legislation, because of that lack of clarity, because those terms aren't defined, we are concerned with the way it's drafted and thinks it needs to be amended at a very minimum to reflect, if the vision of the minister is what the government's intent is, we would be supportive of that, targeting you know, their efforts on where the need is. But I don't think that we can be confident that that's what the legislation reflects. And so we are quite concerned, and we do believe there's some significant amendments required to reflect what we heard from the minister saying earlier today.
Thanks for that. And through you, Chair, is it fair to say then, Mr. Frank, that our understanding is there's about perhaps 1 or 1.1 million Canadians who lack sufficient coverage. So that could mean that perhaps of the 40 million Canadians, 39 million Canadians that their coverage they currently have could be in jeopardy?
Well, I can only speak to what we cover as a private industry. So there are 27 million Canadians with private drug coverage today in Canada. It's very broad coverage, much broader than even the best public system available across Canada. And they value that coverage greatly. 90% of them value their coverage to a high amount or to a great amount. So they want to protect it, and they are very strongly opposed to having that put at risk. And overwhelmingly, if you ask them what their preferred approach is and you give them a choice, they would like government to target their efforts where the need is. So, you know, we listen to our clients every day. We provide excellent coverage for them. There's 27 million of them that are very happy with what they have, and they don't want to see that put at risk. Everyone would agree people should have access to the medications they need, and so let's target where the problem is, and let's not disrupt what's working well for so many.
Thank you very much for that, and through you, Chair, Monsieur Giroux, thank you for being here. Thank you for your analysis. You know, when we begin to look at federal government spending, we know that the spending is ballooning out of control. That does not mean that Pharmacare is not important. That being said, and we've heard, of course, now from Mr. Keon, there's not going to be any savings here. So this will continue to be an expense to the federal government, of course, to taxpayers. Perhaps we don't have that much time, but maybe you could outline that expense that is going to be a recurring expense to taxpayers with respect to Bill C-64.
Yes, in fact, we estimate the cost to be about $1.9 billion over 5 years. So that means about $400 million ongoing and increasing with population increase and inflation over time. So $400 million per year and increasing, roughly speaking.